The business is leaving a lot to IT. They're making IT decide what the business does because they're pushing technology solutions and everything. That feels very much like the tail is wagging the business dog. Emma, why are CEOs allowing that to happen? 60 seconds or less.
So first, I would challenge the idea that the business is letting it happen as opposed to IT taking ownership of that idea. And I don't know if it's a chicken or an egg and who is leading that, but I do agree that there is a higher focus on technology as opposed to process and people when we take a look at digital transformation. And I think it's a little bit of a mind trap because we use the term digital transformation all the time. That idea of digital automatically makes our mind think that the technology is going to drive our transformation, as opposed to the technology being there to enable the people and the process along the way. And that's one thing that I like to talk with my customers a lot about is we focus on process and the people that are engaging in that process, and then how we bring technology in to enable it. And I think that helps reframe this idea of digital transformation into something that is centered around the business and the people that are making it happen.
Change is about people, Emma, not about technology or anything else. But we see and experience firms struggling to implement really effective change programs. How do organizations set up change programs that will ensure digital transformation is actually delivered and sticks?
For me, there's really three key areas of change management that need to be supported. And I am simplifying this a lot in my 60 seconds. But really, the first stage is helping identify the why you are making the change and identifying the process that you're going to tackle first. And what you have to do is help your team understand the why for them as an individual. It's not going to be the same across your team. It's not going to be the same across each department. And so everyone needs to have the opportunity to understand the larger organizational why to a level that allows them to come up with their kind of what's in it for me or with them statement is the little term that we use there. And then when you take a look at the second stage, communication is really going to be critical for you when you're going through an implementation like this. And whether it's RPA or an ERP or AI or any sort of technology, it cannot be a black box that's solving your problem. You need to communicate the progress of your initiative, how things are going, help your team understand where you're hitting roadblocks, where you've been successful. If your target date changes, communicate that information appropriately, because we've all been in a scenario where we hear about something and then it kind of dies on the vine and we start to lose confidence in the ability to deliver new solutions. And then finally, that third stage is going to be really communicating and celebrating wins, and also using lessons learned as an opportunity to regroup as an organization so that you can do better next time. But if we're not talking about the successes that we're having, it's going to be that much harder to get the momentum and kind of start this self-perpetuating process of cultural change that comes with digital transformation.
CEOs, when they go down to the golf course, Emma, talk excitedly about data analytics and blockchain and the millions they've put into that. But when that same CEO was talking about change programs, they're silent. But people make change happen. Transformation happens at the start with great people employing great tech to deliver great business solutions. Why is that CEO? Why is she not talking excitedly about the change program? And why is she not investing millions in people, or the same amount of millions in people and change programs as she is the technology?
I think that this is shifting a little bit. Conversations that I'm having with our customers are driving towards this idea of change management as being something that teams are waking up to being a very critical part of success. Now, again, I think this goes back to a little bit of what we talked about before with this idea of the digital portion of transformation, leading us to think with a technology first approach as opposed to people and process focus that's then enabled by the technology. And so when you take a look at how you're investing your money and how you're changing, a lot of it, I think, is tied to this idea of we hear of these buzzwords and we hear about the things that are supposed to be driving our digital transformation, like agile methodology, where we try to shove our team into these thought processes or these fads that we're hearing about, rather than taking a step back, looking at where you're at as an organization and surveying how you can bring your people along with you on the journey. And change management is that missing component. And so I'm seeing those conversations come up much more frequently now, but I think we still have a long way to go before we've fully reoriented the picture around the people.
Technology or business strategy, which should come first, or does A inform B or B inform A?
So I had a conversation recently with a Harvard professor, and I'll link that in the comments from our conversation. And his focus was on value-based strategy. And I think that this ties really well into this idea. And the whole idea of value-based strategy across the board, whether it's technology-driven or not, is that you need to focus on increasing your customers' willingness to pay for your service by making your service more attractive, or decreasing your employee and suppliers' willingness to sell. And that sounds a little counterproductive, but the thought is that you make the job or being your supplier more attractive. And so when you take a look at how that applies to technology, it's really using those ideas to drive where you're bringing in technology and thinking through how you're going to increase attractiveness of your job, your product, and being a partner with you as an organization. And when you start to use that framework to think through it, I think it gives you the ability to really kind of take that business-centric thought process and then enable it with technology. So I guess the short answer would be start with the business and move to technology to enable that process.
Executives talk excitedly about digital transformation. And after they've got back from a nice meal at the nice hotel and they've designed the 3-year strategy, they let it loose. But I've yet to see too many executives on the shop floor actually listening and engaging with people to understand the impact of the transformation. I've yet to see many follow through and actually listen and look and hear what a customer has had to say about the so-called digital transformation or transformation journey. Why do executives not do that? And should they? Or do they? 60 seconds, Emma.
I think the really savvy ones do this. And when I am interacting with executives that we work with in our client list, the really, really sharp ones that are actually, getting these initiatives started and supported from, kind of their directive down, have mechanisms in place where their team is interacting, whether it's through Navient or directly with their team that's kind of managing their solutions, are soliciting feedback from the business, and also starting to do things a little bit more recently, like pulling in customers to be a part of that process and listening to their voice as well. And so I think the answer is unequivocally yes. You should be bringing in different viewpoints from across the different areas of your business, bringing in your customers and having those voices be heard as a part of the conversation. And I think that the ones that are seeing successful transformations are already doing this today.
How do you embed a culture of change that persists in an organization, rather than just setting up the transformation program, walking away like a lot of organizations do, and then wondering why the change hasn't stuck?
I think it all comes down to culture. And it's a really easy thing to say, and it's a really quick, it could be done. But it comes down to a culture that really genuinely listens to new ideas, supports the opportunity to try things, even if you don't know or guarantee that those opportunities and experiments are going to come to fruition to add value. But you constantly have to be trying new things, because otherwise you will not find what's going to be the next big thing. And you're constantly going to be playing a game of catch up. The more that you can start to support that idea of experimentation and this culture of safety that's associated with that true ability to experiment, the better off you're going to be, because that kind of momentum builds on itself. And, on LinkedIn, I see lots of conversations about, creative thinking builds, or the ability to experiment gives you the opportunity to try something new, and you bring in a solution and it offsets repetitive work. And then you have more time to come up with these new creative ideas of how to support your customers or your employees more effectively. And so it all comes down to this underlying idea of truly creating a culture of change. And that takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. And that's you have to be in it for the long haul for that to be effective.